Good evening. How's it going? Let me just pop that back up. I'll just leave that there for now. How's it going tonight? Good to see you. I'm glad you popped in. This is going to be an interesting one. There's a couple of things here that are going to kind of maybe tie some bows on some boxes. You know what I mean? So, I'm glad you stopped by. Book here. We're going to be going through a couple of books tonight, some interesting ones. Kabbalion, with a specific goal in mind. We're going to be taking a look at the 7 planetary majors. So, the majors, the 22 of them, are connected to basically 3 kind of symbol systems, right? The 3 major elements, the 7 planets, the 12 signs. So basically the thing that they all are made of, the things they became, and the place they live, right? And so what we're going to be talking about tonight is the things that they became. So the 7 planets. And there's 7 of the trumps that are associated with that. And so what we're going to do is have some little fun. Luana, how's it going? We're going to have a little fun here, and we're going to see if we can find a correlation in some other knowledge systems that point to those cards, right? And so we're going to be looking at Kabbalion. We're going to be looking at Sefer Yetzirah. I don't know if you've ever heard of Sefer Yetzirah. It's kind of a biggie when it comes to the tarot, right? Especially the thought system. And then, of course, the biggie. I mean, let's just go to the source, right? At least the source that's, obvious. So that said, that's going to be a lot of fun. Now, obviously, we're going to start out in the outer order, which means that we're going to be playing with some toys. And so, we did a lot of gematria yesterday, and some crazy stuff came out of the experience. We had this really cool kind of group thing going on, and we bumped into some really neat stuff. And so I thought that there'd be some other fun ways that we can go about that. With respect to pulling stuff out of books like we had done before, but then taking a look at like a little different spin. With cards or maybe birthdays and some other things. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And we'll also take a look at just throwing some cards, right? And doing some quick 1-card readings on basic ideas. And again, sort of trying to tie a knot on this whole thing. And so if anyone has any ideas with respect to this beginning portion here, the outer order, do you have any questions related to numerology or I Ching or how these all tie together? That's the time to kind of do that, right? And then we move into the inner order. And that's where we get into now that we've learned with playing with our toys, we understand some of these things that kind of like these patterns that make sense, and we see these connections. This is where we apply it, right? And during that application, oftentimes that can be enough for some people, but other times this is that place where those connections turn into work that actually create change. The change in your thinking, the change in your definitions of things, a change to what matters and maybe doesn't anymore, right? And so that's a fun place to play too, is the inner order. It's the truth, but in secret. So there's a little bit of kind of decoding, and there's a little bit of intuition, and there's a lot of conversation, because that's the goal here, right? Isn't that why we're here, is conversation? And then the inner sanctum. The truth told openly, right? So that's going to be like, today's truth told openly is a biggie. Yeah. So, but a lot of good stuff, Who's looking? What a great question. Who's looking? I mean, anybody who's a fan of the channel knows that I must mean something like, wow, what does he mean by who's looking? Stick around, it's going to be fun. Yeah, more spinny things. Not only, you want to see some more, I'll just give you a quick little shot. Don't pay too much attention. Okay. Yeah, we're going to look at some spinny things tonight. I thought it would be fun to just like literally step into another dimension. I mean, why not? Let's just quit playing. So, yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. And how do we do that, right? Well, we create vortices in our brains. We have 2 hemispheres. You can play with that knowledge. What happens when you have 2 competing forces counter-rotating? Well, there's a little vortex created in the middle, and what a vortex is but opportunity, possibility, creation, reassembly, transformation, all these cool things. All those are fancy words for stuff happening. Stuff happening, Did I mention how much I like dark coffee? I'm a big fan of dark coffee. So let's see how everything's going tonight here. Looks like I've been doing kind of good with my internet connection lately. I don't know, should I just ignore that or should I feel good about that? So more good news. We got good news that the last person that was unaccounted for in Florida is now accounted for, has been spoken to, is safe, well, did very good in the situation. Obviously, it's going to be a while to kind of get their act together again, but no injury, and the loss could have been worse, right? So that was a biggie. When these types of things happen and you've gone through this type of thing before, you understand there's going to be a period of time where there's no communication, right? And so you have to have that moment, like, am I going to panic? Am I going to, stress the whole time? Or am I going to kind of sort of let go, realizing there's nothing I can do, and it's kind of a waiting period. Try not to fall into that trap of telling stories, right? Of course, we can't not tell stories, but we do get to write them. So be careful what words you write down when you're looking at loss or potential loss, or looking at things that enter our lives that are out of our control but cause injury, right? We have to really be careful when we investigate that. So that said, Papa Smurf is looking. Wow. That reminds me, there's a very beautiful couple of scenes in the Smurfs that I always go back to. Papa Smurf had a buddy, right? And he was a sage, and they used to sit together and chat. And there was this one episode, I actually developed a spread based on this. I call it the What If. Where they were looking into this crystal ball, and the episode was basically what would happen if each individual Smurf were in charge, right? And so it sort of showed the society of the Smurfs and how they evolved based on the leader. And so it was just funny. And I just recall Brainy kind of being a pretty devastating leader. Like, that one didn't work out too well. I don't really remember the other Smurfs. I'm sure that with technology it would take me 5 minutes to find the episode and watch it. I think I have to now. Thanks, Shushu. Man, that's a biggie. But yeah, so it was this idea of like looking into the crystal ball, right? And saying, well, what if? And that's kind of part of what we do in the outer order, isn't it? I mean, we're playing with our toys. The idea here is to, during the process of learning, we got to kind of get out of the serious part for a minute. When you walk in the door of the church, it's a holy place and take it seriously. But when you walk out, there's a lot of opportunity to learn and grow, and it doesn't have to be all serious and math and calculators, and you can have fun and play with your toys, right? And so we should do that. Okay, do you remember the episode? I could totally see that. I wonder what Baker did. Do you remember Snorks? All right, who here remembers Snorks? That's I don't know if it ran. It certainly did not run as long as the Smurfs did, but I don't know if it ran more than a couple seasons, the Snorks. But they were cool. Sure can, yeah. And it also looks like, I'm going to drop this little gem, and whoever wants to pick it up, have fun. I would say the Smurfs, oddly, coincidentally, look like they're wearing a Phrygian cap, right? Phrygian with a PH. I don't know, you should check that out. Anyway, so yeah. Smurfs, man, they're cool. Now, there's the idea of, like, were they a product of a hallucination, like an experience by the creator? I think, that's the story, right? That they're an acid trip or a mushroom trip. They're a psilocybin experience. Because everyone knows the dwarfs, right? I mean, the DMT dwarfs or whatever. I've never done the DMT thing, although I know people who have, and they've done some serious work that way if it's approached properly. Of course, you can't just pop a pill and then, receive enlightenment if it were that easy. Snorks. It's kind of like, hey, this worked. It was the same thing as Thundercats and Silverhawks. Although I loved them both, there was something to be said about this sort of like Wiccan version with the cats, and then the sort of like Western version of like the space. And then the two different Voltrons. There was the cat Voltrons and then the robot Voltron. There was always this idea of like, the formula worked, reapply the formula because it works, And it did. Of all the series that they tried to do that with. Of course, the original did better, but there was still this sort of nostalgic connection to the B-side, you know? And the B-sides are just as good. Sometimes there's like serious good stuff on the B-side, better than what they thought they were going to do on the original single, so to speak, right? I don't know if Snorks is that, but but yeah, so there's a couple things that I thought would be fun, right? And you know, we can look at a couple of things. The idea that kind of popped in my head, which is sort of going to move into the inner order stuff, but gets into the axioms that we talked about, the 7 hermetic principles of the Kabbalion. And you know, whenever you see numbers that seem like they're connected, you know, just peek. Now don't look too much into that. But every once in a while, you're going to find a connection and go, okay, wow, right? If you see a 12, is it the apostles or is it the signs, or are they the same thing, right? I mean, we are seeing these people that kind of march, you know, the round table, so to speak, you know. There's a lot of these holographic representations of things, whereas it's almost as if there was this one truth that broke into different pieces, and all these different pieces are just represented by their own vocabularies. Another way to say that is our personality is a vocabulary, isn't it? All it is a means of communication, and how do we communicate? Through the character we play, the vocabulary. And so each one of these bodies of knowledge is just a vocabulary that is pointing to that one truth. And one of the ways that we can do that is by playing around like we did yesterday. Missy, how's it going? We did some random words, we picked some random sentences, and almost every case, in fact, I guess every case, really, there was some kind of connection to the people present, to the subject at hand. It was really kind of cool. And we have this beautiful technology to be the witness, right? Because these videos are up, I mean, this is Google. This video is going to be around in 1,000 years in a holographic crystal floating in space, waiting to be seeded on a new planet, and, you know. So, I mean, that video is going nowhere. That's imprinted. And in the last video too, same thing. We have this record of this beautiful experience, and every one of us participated. It was, you know, it's so, how awesome is that? And, you know, own that. Own your participation in that, because you are going to assist in the awakening of another person due to that. I threw together a little playlist of a couple of videos, and I'm going to begin grabbing snippets out of past live streams to kind of create a little synopsis of everything that has kind of transpired here over the past maybe 6 weeks. And, you know, it's interesting because you can tell any story with 6 words, right? And so imagine the size of the story with 6 videos. And so I wonder what we're going to kind of pull out of tonight. Well, I guess we'll find out by the end. But so that said, you know, where do you guys want to begin? You know, there's one thing I thought would just be interesting since we're playing with toys. And I had pulled this book out yesterday. This is one of the books of Solomon. And if you look through here real quick and just thumb through, you might notice an image pop up that kind of is familiar to maybe a couple of you. Maybe not. Okay, what's that? These kind of look a little familiar. Hang on. What are we looking at? Keys? Oh, these are the seals. Huh. And each one represents like a planet. And each planet has a number of seals. Oh, wait, I know that one. Oh, I know these two. These two look really familiar. Where have we seen these before? Let me think. Oh, wait a minute. There you go. Yeah. Let's see here. Okay, and so these, what you're referring to here are very similar in a sense to the magic square of 15s and this type of thing. Sudoku is a very beautiful little holographic version of this, and to a degree, and they both speak to the same thing. There is a unity, you know, in the directions. And in this particular case, these are also permutations of the name of God,